Welcome back on the program. Good morning, Abuja. And it's time for our first interview on the program today. And of course, we are going to be talking about election. As you know, we are gradually approaching the February election, the 2023 election, general elections. And of course, our discussion this morning is talking about election monitoring. There's a whole lot of process before the election day itself, and all those processes are monitored. And there are two amazing gentlemen in the studio to talk about the roles they've been playing in election monitoring. I'm joined in the studio by Dr. Peter Eboatu and Mr. Epko, both of the West African Civil Society Forum. You're welcome on the program today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yes. So, Dr. Peter, election is not a one-day affair. There's a whole lot that happens before that day itself. And you are a civil society person, which means your interaction is at different levels. So share with us what you've been doing so far.
Well, thank you for your question, and you are quite correct when you said election, even though it takes place in one day, it is not just a one-day affair. There is what is called election cycle. There's a cycle. It starts from the beginning of preparation to the end of the election. Sometimes it's up to 1 year, depending on the country. For Nigeria, the election cycle starts from registration down to the election. There are a lot of processes that you have to go through to get to the election. And in elections, it's important to note that end does not justify the means. It is the means with which you get to the end that justifies the end. So if the process is marred at any point, the end result, it doesn't matter who comes out as the winner, because definitely we'll go to court and then that person will be deposed where the court does what it should do, because there are rules, constitution, bylaws, acts of National Assembly that has to be followed stage by stage, step by step, in accordance with what we have agreed, Nigerians have agreed to do during election. Do you understand? So there's a long process, and that long process is what we in the civil society were interested in, not particularly an individual, because whoever Nigerians choose will be our leader.
Yes.
But how does that person come out is what we're asking. If you go and do mago and you come out the balance mago, you know what it means. If you go and do all those crooked way and then you come out, people are there to challenge you. People are there to ask you, how did you get this result? And that's why the INEC must be called to question at the end of the election. If there are question marks anywhere, people will ask questions and say, how did you get this?
Okay. Well, Mr. Ima, now, since we know that the election is a whole cycle, it's not a one-day affair, you are the secretary of the West African Civil Society Forum.
Yes.
And you are one of those people accredited to work with INEC in monitoring the election. Let's look at the monitoring process so far. What exactly do you look out for?
Okay. In the election monitoring, WACSOF itself is not being accredited. Okay. But WACSOF is monitoring is observing the election through their members organization, okay, which is Aspire African Youth Empowerment Initiative. It's okay, duly accredited. And yesterday, the list, the day before yesterday, the list of accredited observers were shortlisted by INEC. And yesterday there was a briefing nationwide. All the civil society organizations that were shortlisted went for a briefing through the election monitoring INEC. We gathered at their research center where we were trained were given the rudiment. What is election observation? What it entails? A whole lot. And we were there for like 6 hours for that training. And so we look at the pre-election period and the post-election, the main election and the post-election era. And so INEC take cognizance, look at the value of civil society, the reporting system, the observation, and what is not observation and what is observation. I think the whole lot was downloaded to civil society yesterday, and we're part of that process. So we have been trained. Civil society have been trained, and we know that INEC is full. On that meeting, we came to realize that INEC is fully. We came to discover that INEC is fully prepared to carry on these tasks.
Okay. Now, civil society organizations, when you mentioned INEC earlier on, Doctor, and my question now is, are you checkmating, are you observing INEC only, or are you observing even the political parties or even the electorates themselves?
You see, observation, the word observation and the word monitoring and observation, these are two
different things, yes.
Especially when it comes to elections.
Yes.
You may not have rights to observe or monitor.
Okay.
Do you understand? For your question, let me go straight to your question so that I don't diverge much. We are watching the system.
Okay.
INEC is a major player in the system. We want to see how INEC post their staffs, how they position. For instance, a few months ago, INEC published voters register for people to go and check. We also are observing how they are distributing the cards, the permanent voters card. In every part of Nigeria, we are looking out to see whether there are shady deals. You know, that someone rigged the election is not just on that election day. Some people start before the election day. He just mentioned the 3 circles in an election: the pre-election, the election day, and the post-election. So we are observing all those places to be sure that INEC is playing by the rules, because it is important to play by the rules. Nobody is more important than any other person. No candidate is more important than any other candidate. You understand that? All of them came through a political party. They represent their political parties. And we are interested in how they came out. Not just election, but also how did this person come out? The laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria provides for how people should emerge to become candidates in their. You don't just wake up in one day and just say I'm a candidate and then you come out. Except maybe when we start doing an independent candidacy. For now, it is through the political party. The process through which the political party brings out their candidate is important. Otherwise, somebody may be trampled upon and his rights are completely whatever. But the truth is that we observe everything. Elections, pre-elections, post-elections, and the major player, institutions and individuals too. If you are carrying dollars everywhere, sharing it everywhere, you think people are not seeing you? What kind of president will you become when you buy the presidency with dollars? What kind of president? What legitimacy will you have?
Okay.
Well, let me say something on that.
All right.
Okay, it is the mandate of the civil society to observe every process that has to do with the election. How candidates emerge. It is our mandate to observe. So we'll look at on that training yesterday. We look at the differences between monitoring and observing. It's very clear. It has a very clear distinction. Monitoring is left for the election monitoring board. Okay. In this case, the INEC. Okay. While observation is for the civil society. So the civil society cannot say, I am monitoring the election. Our duty is to observe and make recommendation.
Yes.
We observe and make recommendations. So election may not be very, very credible if there are no observers. That is why civil society are what? They are critical stakeholders in election.
We have run out of time, but thank you for coming, Dr. Peter Eboatu and of course Mr. Epko, both of the West Africa Civil Society Forum. It's been a pleasure having you in our studio.
Thank you very much.
The program is still Good Morning Abuja. We're going to